Welcome to the Bougie Black Brother Network. Good afternoon and welcome to Repo Rethink Politics, where we get three perspectives on political issues as well as what's going on in your and our communities. And I'm here with my co-host, Chaz. What's up, dude?
Man, it's been a hell of a
Couple of
month.
weeks. Yeah, a month or so.
Season. Shit. Like man, I gotta give y'all some updates, but I'm good. I'm happy to be here, but yeah, it's been crazy.
Been crazy. That's what's up. And our other co-host, E. What's good with you, dude?
What up? Yeah, man. So much been going on. Did we miss anything?
Did we?
Probably.
Did we?
Happening right now.
What's going on right now?
Did we?
Shit.
The fuck?
Not much to talk about, do we?
Nah.
Polar bears, like polar bears polar bears moved in down the street because
Yeah, no shit.
It's, who knows?
Foxes and all types of shit in the yard.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. So, what I wanted to do this one too, because I got into a discussion with a couple of people, and I'll kind of relate it a little more. But how does the political landscape affect others? And I'm going to tell you what is your perspective when you thinking about others as opposed to yourself. And the reason why people are seeing us around the world as being the ugly Americans who think everything is just good for us and we don't care about anyone else when we at their country. And now they seeing it that we even doing it to each other. So I don't have to wear a mask, or, my cops are fine. You must be doing something wrong. And they're starting to see that even within our country as opposed to that. So as we go through some of these topics, put a quick perspective of what do you think it affects others as opposed to just yourself. Y'all get that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, but yeah, let's go ahead and
we could play it. I just thought it was interesting because living overseas, I felt they said you're not like the regular American because blah blah blah, and then they starting to see us actually doing it to each other, and it's just even our government filtering down to that point.
Let's be honest though. I mean, it's almost basically somebody saying is you have empathy. OMG, that's crazy.
That's crazy. That's new.
Like, why is that a low bar? Like, why is that the bar? Just to have empathy. Like, it's hard for me to really sit here and say that I don't know. I think there's a lot of things at play, but I kind of want to get into what you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think that's a big deal in my opinion. Just to say, I'm thinking about this from other people.
Gotcha.
So, do you think? Oh, well, go ahead.
So, and since I'm saying that, let's go to the top of the issues. I kind of said that because it's getting out. It's just going bananas now. Is this COVID issue? It's South now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's South now, as opposed to us living it through New York and portions of California, New Jersey, and Massachusetts.
Oh, you mean the blue states, in other words?
Yeah. And it was like, it's not going to affect us. We ain't New York.
Yeah.
And it's going past that point because we made bad decisions and didn't think about others, because we looked at the fact, and I'm going to say we because I'm living in the South.
Yeah, I was going to say, who's we?
So, because I live in the South and I don't have that mindset, but it affects me because I'm in the South. And when we saw that, when we in Georgia, me and Chaz, and you're in Carolina, but Carolina is starting to creep up too. So what are you seeing in your environment when it comes to how it's exploding?
My perspective is, it's weird, man, because the last time we did this podcast, not that it was like 6 months ago or anything like that. I still had that jersey mindset, trying to adjust to North Carolina, and how everything works here. I still got Jersey tags, on my car.
They're gonna get you sooner or later, though.
Yeah, I know they're gonna get me though, right? Yeah. But no. So I'm down here in Carolina, because the last thing we talked about too is how no one was really taking it seriously.
Right.
But the governor now is out here. They're finally mandating wearing masks in Carolina. It's almost as if something woke them up, and now they're doing everything right. Like
right.
It took this increase, this spike to happen. Now we're not as bad as Florida, Arizona, Texas, California right now. Not even close to what New York was. But it's like all of a sudden the governor was like what's going on with like it's seeing the increases, and then all of a sudden now let's start using these face masks. So it's I hate to say it, but it's like they're finally understanding that the seriousness of it all. So I don't think the people have really understood it. I think it's like you guys were talking about. Individually speaking, I think everyone is worried about themselves. I don't really think there's like an empathy for other people. And I think that's a Southern thing. I'm just going to be honest, because up north, it's, I feel like people understood like, oh, we got to wear a mask as a group.
Nope.
And in the South, it's just different, man.
Just real quick on that subject. I mean, I think that's important. That's a really brilliant point you just made. And I think there's, when you talk about northern cities versus southern, I think the density plays the role, but yeah, you're right. There's a certain communal factor just because I can't be in New York City and it's communal, whether it be trains or, you're shopping, like you're just around so many people, whereas in
your
the South,
neighbor.
Yeah. So whereas in the South is like, in the North, just elevators. Like it's a whole, like there's, like you just always sharing a space with someone for the most part. Whereas in the South, you're probably not around too much public transit. You're probably driving. You're in a car, so you're inside your own car, your own home. So it's just a very, it's just a different way of life. But I think within that small difference, you're absolutely right. It's very easy to say I'm gonna do things my way, and not necessarily have a big concern for your neighbor, because your neighbor could be, it's just a different. I think the whole idea of being a neighbor in the South versus in a more dense, I think it's density. I think that's what we're getting at in a high dense city. It's just different, like
it's not even
impacts you.
Yeah, it's not even just different. It's the lifestyle. Like, let's be honest, you literally don't have to worry about what your neighbor is doing in order for you to survive. In the South, I'm just saying in terms of, I'm not saying your neighbor's a mile away and you're in a flyover state or anything, but you can go to the store and you can drive around to the park on your own. You can go ride your bike on your own. That's just the suburban lifestyle, right? Where, not that it's about me, but I'm just going my perspective. When I was in Jersey, we're on top of each other. I need to make sure, where the bus stops are. You know what I'm saying? I need to know what the routes are, and then, the subway system and things like that. If I'm going to go into the city, I need to know what's nearby. Is there, because you're walking to get something to eat or something, you want to know what's nearby. I mean, it's totally different, the
lifestyle, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. In the South, it's just not like that. You can control where you're going. You have a car, you can isolate yourself a lot easier.
So you're saying that's a bigger cause and effect than just people not listening. It's the lifestyle changes that cause these people to say, well, I'm not close to people, so why should I need to worry about it?
Right. It's
That's
almost exposing them.
But
I think it's exposing you, though, right? Not you, but just it's exposing not the issue, but just how the lifestyle never required you to worry about your neighbor.
Right.
If you're a kind of person, which I think the three of us are, we do care about our neighbor. If you're someone that doesn't and you never really needed to, then you're just not going to. And I think that's what's happening with a lot of. This is just my theory. I'm just throwing that out there. But I think there are people that are like, man, I'm not wearing no mask. I'm my family's good. I know where I'm going.
How many people? How would you say being a parent plays into that? Do you think there are a lot of parents who are doing that? Because I know y'all parents are thinking about. I mean, it's summer now, but what's going to happen in fall? I would
But what do you
assume
mean as a parent though?
even in the suburbs, you're going to try to like keep it safe just because
Hmm.
like hey, I want to send my child back to school at some point, or I'm thinking about it, so I want to make sure I want to keep my family safe. So, do you feel like people who necessarily don't care per se are more single people, or parents are behaving the same way as I don't care about a mask, I'm doing whatever, it's not that big a deal. Does it
I
matter?
I mean we could bring it to that. And that's not exactly what I was getting at, but that is
No, no, no.
I
I
feel
was just
like
asking.
yeah, yeah.
I was just asking, like from your observation.
Hmm. Uh, I mean, I'm just yeah. I do think. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. If I was single, I mean, it's about what I do, right? It has nothing to do with
With
anybody
anybody
else.
else, yep.
I talked to one of my boys, that I'm real close with. We like grew up together. We think the same everything, right? He could be on this call with us and have the same conversation. But at the same time, he was just like, "Yo, I'm about to go to this party. It's just a group of us, like 7 of us, And I'm like, "Whoa." As a parent, I'm like, that's a lot of people,
That's a lot of people.
but he's like, man, I'm good, man. It's just 7 of us, and we all tight, something like
Right.
that. And I'm just like, all right, cool. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
his parent, you know what I mean? But I'm
Right.
just thinking like one. I'm like, all right, do you,
So
stay
Chaz,
safe.
yeah. So Chaz, this is the other thing. So back
Yeah.
to the South again.
Yeah.
People just think, oh, I'm good because I know my neighbor and I know they're fine. And my cousin, he's coming over. And then you got a house full of 13 or 15 people that everyone think that everyone's okay. That's not safe.
Well,
And
hold
then,
on.
and I'm going to give you another issue too. Another
Yeah.
one is back to what you said with children. There's a philosophy in a lot of people's minds that kids don't get it, so it's not that big of a deal. That's why they need to
Yeah.
be in school. But they're not taking in consideration that children can be asymptomatic and give it to these teachers and facility people. They're not even thinking that way. They're just thinking, the percentage of children catching it is way lower. And if they get it, they asymptomatic. You don't see much of anything
Yeah.
going
But a
on.
lot of these educators in these schools are old. Like I feel
Yes.
like we all had old teachers.
Yeah, just
Like that's consistent.
forever. So I mean, so
Yeah.
that's a conflict in itself, and
But
I just really feel that how do you think that someone else is clean? I don't mean to put it that way, but they're clean enough to be in your home without a mask and chilling, and you don't know what exposure that they had. You don't know that. You think because
Right.
you know them that
I,
they're fine.
I'm not sure, but I just want to make one point real quick, and to kind of I'm gonna bring it back to, our scene, Mike, in terms of Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I guess more so my part of town, like Atlanta versus the state of Georgia, and I think we're seeing, um, and again, this goes back to my rhetoric about rural America versus the city never fails. So the governor of Georgia, I don't know. So I can't tell if Governor Kemp of Georgia is trying to go for a cabinet position because it seems like he's trying to appease Trump to a degree. He and Mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, has just been like going at it.
Yep.
So Keisha was tested positive, I think, last week.
Yeah.
Apparently, I
Mayor
didn't
of
even
Atlanta.
notice. Like we said, what you say?
The mayor of Atlanta, if they didn't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the state of Georgia set the state record for yesterday actually for cases. So it's surging, and of course this is like at this point we're about 1 week. I think we're exactly 1 week from 4th of July weekend, so we have to wait the next week just to see what's going to happen. And they've been like she was like everybody got to wear a mask and we got to go back to phase one. The governor released a whole statement was like, if you really wanted to help flatten the curve, blah blah blah. And I'm like, bruh, it's just such a, he made a statement saying what the mayor is doing is not enforceable, basically undermining. And I'm just like, yes, I think it's one thing to say Southernisms are part of it, but I think density is a more predictive. Like I don't think I don't know if it is as regional as it is just it's politics and density. but not even density, because I would say, now that I'm thinking about it, in South Georgia, Mike, do you remember this story a couple weeks ago? Like this, a southern city in Georgia, for like it's a pretty high African American population. They got hit
Albany.
by it.
Was it
What
Albany?
was it?
Albany.
Maybe, but they took it seriously, and it's really hard for me to say, like, is it about this? Is it about that? In terms of how people are responding? Is it just young people who don't care,
No.
or whatever the case? But
Right.
it just is. We're seeing like this huge smorgasbord of people reacting, and the only thing you can really do is it has to be top down. But if people are I feel like people are just playing politics, and
Yeah.
No, I agree.
it's really hard for me to sit back and say, like, like Florida, he played politics, he was talking shit,
Yep.
like, aha, we're not in New York, aha, and then a couple weeks later, they looking crazy. Georgia wants to reopen, it's like, see, we good. Now our shit was surging, and really still. So I'm like, I'm a little.
Yeah.
So Chaz,
shook.
don't think of it as one or two things. It's a
No,
combination
it's a combination of so many.
because we have
variables,
no leadership. So no one brought it together to say let's focus on one or two things.
But now it's each governor. It's governor and city officials trying to figure shit out. And if you have folks who are going at it, and it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that the same problem from the beginning?
Yes.
The only difference is it's everyone's saying "I told you so."
That's right.
That's
But
the
now
only thing.
Yep.
hospital systems are like maxed out.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah,
like, bro,
same thing. Yeah.
I'm just kind of like, well, before you had a chance, but now as the hospitalizations, like, people just aren't going to go to the hospital for no reason. Like, I can understand if, like, there's people are getting false positives, and let's say there's 10,000 cases or whatever, for the sake of simple math, but it might be 7,500 in reality, and 25% are false positives. If you want to argue that, sure, but people aren't just gonna go to the hospital for no reason either. So,
but
I
think
would
about
say that's close.
think
to
about
line.
the 7,500 though. You got 7,500 that's already affected, probably 14,000, because the COVID is, I think, is 1.5 or 1 point something. That one person affects 1 point something others. So once you get a positive of one, there's a guarantee they affected 1.5 other people. So once you get that, there's a guarantee that they affect at least one person.
Yeah, I know the math. A lot of times they do the percentages. They'll do it for instance, I don't even know the state, but for instance, for every 20 people that are tested, one is positive. In some states, right? And in some states, it's for every 50 is one. So that's actually the rate, or that's actually the perspective that people need to be focused on. Because I notice a lot of people are paying attention to the death rate because it's dropping,
right?
But they're not paying attention to the hospitalization rate.
But
how many
but
people are positive, but then they're going to the hospital
right.
Because they're sick. That number is going up.
So think about it. We never said anything about the hospitalization rate because the death rate was so high. But you have to say about the hospitalization because we're doing things in the hospital that's helping people. But you're absolutely right. They had to add the hospitalization rate because people was getting too comfortable to say, well, people aren't dying, so we're okay. Which is crazy.
Right. What's getting overlooked too, because I jump in these social media arguments or whatever. A lot of people
Why are you doing that? For what?
Quarantine life. So no, so the argument a lot is people are focused on the death rate. Kids, the number of kids or young adults are increasing in positives, and they're asymptomatic or they don't have issues, they don't get sick, right? So so everything's fine. It's a very the mindset is very simple. It's very limited. It's not. It stops at the individual. And that's the empathy factor, right? That's that part where people are talking about, yeah, but I'm fine. But why don't we just reopen and just toughen up? Why don't we just But we just you can get over it. If I get sick, I'll be fine.
You
And
know
it's
what it
like,
is? It's
what
like
are you talking about?
it's like now once you start making money, it's like yeah, people complain about taxes or no. Here's a better example. Once you start making money, it's like yeah, we need to cut welfare. It's like bro, you was just getting you got a small
Food
business
stamps.
loan from the Small Business Government the Association, whatever, the other day. It's like yeah, well that was in the past.
They
Like
forget
bro,
all about it, right?
yeah, exactly.
And I think it's the infection part that they don't understand. It's like once you all you need, like the football teams right now. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to the college football teams that are now
Mm-hmm.
working out.
Yep.
The Clemson football team, there was like less than a handful that came in with positives, and then now they have like 47 players like that are like positive.
47?
Damn.
It was something 40 something. The
Right.
last I checked, and that was like a week ago.
Dude, you can say 15, and that's way too much. Come on now.
Exactly. Yeah. So they had to pause. Actually, I don't know if they did it, but a lot of I know I always bring college football, but look,
You do.
pay attention. So
You do. You sure
You
do.
like me and talking about flyover states.
yeah, you do. Yeah. But my point is, because I do want to talk about that later, college football.
Of course.
That they're paused, like they have to pause the workouts. You know what I mean? Like, you want to talk about basketball. You got the NBA players testing positive, and they're doing a smart thing and actually deciding that they're not even going to play because the fact is, it's the infection, it's the spreading of it. This thing is more contagious than the flu or anything else that people keep trying to compare it to. And I think that's the part that people are forgetting. They just keep stopping at the individual. Like, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, nah, man, but what about these kids that go home to their grandparents or their parents or to these teachers when they go to school? You don't want to make it worse, right? So,
right. So I want to inject in real quick. He didn't show up today, but I had my neighbors, Chris. He was supposed to be over because he's very concerned about what's going on. And we were talking about the COVID, and he said, dude, there's a kid in our school who died. I said, what do you mean? I mean, I don't mean to sound crazy, but did he die of the COVID? He's like, yeah. He said, but everybody else was like, damn, that was messed up that he died. Hey, I'll see y'all later on, and we're going to go hang out together. And I was like, so it didn't.
Like in other words, that's
Yeah,
him.
they
It
didn't
can't happen
think
to us,
through
type
that. But this is what he said, because that's why I really wanted him to be involved, because he has a different way of thinking. He said he related it to when some people came in, some doctors, and they said, you shouldn't smoke or you shouldn't take drugs. He said, but there's an invincibility complex that most children have that it's not going to be me. So when they think about the COVID, they think about it the same way as getting cancer or overdosing or anything like that, or, drunk driving. They think of that or feel that invincibility that it's not going to be me. Not because I'm an American or whatever, but because I'm young and I got all of this energy in my life ahead of me, that's not a big deal. It's not going to affect me. And he said, I thought that was dumb. And he said he has a small circle of friends because he sees the recklessness in a lot of the kids his age. And he's 19 years old.
In the South.
Yeah, and there you go. So that kind of blew my mind. When I thought that, hey, if one of these kids, die from it, they'll start seeing that they need to be careful. He was like, hell no. No. Now, some people saw it that way. He said, but most of them see it like, whatever, it wasn't me. I feel bad for him, but that ain't me. Like, damn. So that's what made me jump out in that way to say, damn, is the word really getting out, or are we getting across to people? Because it seems as though this number is going to continue to go higher because of this type of thinking.
You know what? So let's do some analysis. Because that's a great question based on just very recent history. Mm-hmm. So you're right. It seems like we're all scared to death of, and it may just because of it's flu-like versus Ebola. Because the motherfuckers got Ebola, it's like,
You
oh,
done.
That was-
shit.
You got that
You know,
shit. You got that
that
shit.
was, that was like, shit, AIDS. That was like diet AIDS. Like, I don't know. I don't know if you can make it. This type shit.
Right.
But compared to this, it's okay. Wait a minute. You're telling me it's based on age. You're telling me, oh, if I'm healthy, you don't have anything pre-existing.
And it's only black people now.
Honey, it's only affecting the Negroes.
The Negroes, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those things. Like I think there's too many exceptions versus like Ebola was like a invisible villain. Like, oh shit, you might as well should have had a theme song.
Yeah, like this. You right around the corner and shit. You hear
Yes.
that?
Ebola's here. Watch out. Watch out, motherfucker.
Watch out, nigga.
Like a blaxploitation movie. So, I think if you're young, I'm trying to go back to that age. Like if I was that young, it's really hard for me to say how I feel because I'm like, maybe I'll probably have like the same thing. So the question is, how will we communicate it? But to me, it's no different than the other things you mentioned. Because drunk driving is fucking awful, but
Yeah,
motherfuckers still do it. Motherfuckers still, it's hard to say. I think.
Yeah, but you have to think that like those people are going to be out there no matter what. So it's
true.
I think it's more about the messaging. If you don't have anybody telling you that you listen to at least,
yeah,
that hey, you need to wear a mask or
just,
hey,
cause
this is serious.
Yeah, just not to spread it to other people. Because maybe maybe the message isn't to protect yourself, but at least protect yourself to ultimately protect others might resonate more.
Right.
I don't know.
But it's consistent
you were
messaging
just talking
too.
about, you were just talking about the leadership, right? About at the like top down, you got these governors that are like downplaying, the virus or just the conditions itself, and the fact is, almost half the country is a conservative or Republican or whatever. So. I think that's the problem,
but
right?
It's that, but again, we're talking about COVID is just it's created such a strange situation.
Tune in next time when the crew tries to find humor in what we're going through as a country and as a people, because sometimes you just gotta laugh. See you next time.